Welcome to a very special teaser episode of the Be a Human in Business show. We're excited to give you a sneak peek at what you can expect from this channel in 2021 and forward. We're here to show entrepreneurs what's truly important when it comes to business, and it all comes back to being a human. We'll discuss all sides of your business, from marketing and sales to operations and customer experience and everything in between. With special guests to discuss certain topics, you can be sure that you'll leave each episode empowered in ways that will make your business simpler and more human. With your hosts, Tracy Borison, founder and personal branding coach at TLB Coaching and Events. Tara Argo, founder and relationship strategist at Argo Operations. Tawana Taylor, founder and project management consultant at Bootstrap Dreams. Debbie Aquara, founder and principal consultant at Niche Customer Experience Consulting Firm. Let's start the show.
So we're going to talk today about how 2020 has changed us in business. I'm excited to hear what you guys say too.
Let's do it. Okay, who wants to go first? Anybody like chomping at the bit?
You are.
Me, I'm always chomping at the bit. Okay, yeah, and so I'm gonna try and be respectful of time so that everybody gets to share, because I could probably just go on a tangent and steal all of her time, and I'm not gonna do that because we all of our listeners want to hear what everybody has to say. But for me, I think one of the biggest things that I've noticed about how business has changed in 2020 is that it has the knowledge that we need to go back to connecting to people as humans, I think has really been drawn to the forefront. So everybody, especially when everybody got locked down for the first time during COVID, and everybody was like, oh my gosh, I don't connect with anybody. How am I going to talk to people? And that was definitely true for me. And a lot of businesses as well went online, and we started needing to have these relationships with people in an online environment that we'd never had to have before. And so all of a sudden we were like, oh, maybe we need to figure out how to do that, and relating to people when you're not in the same room, and making sure that you can get conversations, because we don't have the water cooler, right? You're not just walking by. Like I know in my old office is the water cooler, legit water cooler. People walk by and fill up their cup, and then you have a conversation with people, and that's just not happening, right? So everybody at the beginning was just kind of like, oh, I think even like for me, I felt really by myself, and I'm not good at that. Super social. I need to be around people. And so I had to find new ways to be around people. And that's why, like, I fully embraced Zoom. I think we can all tell by like Zoom's market share of what happened there, right? So everybody was just like video chatting. I just scheduled like an all-day Zoom conference for my family for Christmas Day. But also capitalizing on social media, right? Like social media was created to connect people. And for years, it has been really used to divide people, which is a little unfortunate. Yes. But I think people have started, I primarily hang out on LinkedIn, and I definitely have noticed it on LinkedIn that people are trying to build relationships with people on social media versus just like posting pictures of their food or posting only the pretty pictures about things. People are being really real, and they're really trying to connect. And I think that that is a beautiful thing about how business has changed in 2020. That's my biggest takeaway on how business has changed in 2020.
Wonderful, wonderful. Ladies, do you want me to go, or who wants to go next?
Okay, I can go next because
great.
I'm so different from Tracy, right? I am probably what you call an extroverted introvert. So I like my peace and quiet, right? Even though I come across as just being very out there. And unlike Tracy, I was very happy with the lockdown. I would rather just stay home and just stay and just create, right? And you know, when I started doing the business full time 2 years ago, I struggled because, you know, during paid employment, I didn't have a reason to connect, well, not to network, right? To kind of manage. I suck at managing relationships, something that I try to improve on every day. And, you know, being before the lockdown, I would have to go places. I'd have to force myself, meet people, stay connected, hang out. If I meet someone for the first time, I'm really thinking, okay, I'm sending a message, can we meet up for drink? Like I had to really push myself. But with the lockdown, like, okay, stay where you are and stay where I am, right? So I mean, and it changed marketing for us because online prior to the lockdown was, you know, we used to do online quite a lot. I'm always online and just talking about customer experience and all of that. And I didn't quite get as much traction as during the lockdown, right? Because everybody now is online, everybody, you know, and I didn't have to, I spent less time converting leads because you see what I do on LinkedIn and then you reach out, right? And surprisingly, 2020 actually was more profitable for me than last year because I engaged more clients directly. I'm pitching online. I don't have to go to your office, sit down and wait for hours. So I'm pitching, we're closing, send a proposal the next day, I send it in, invoice sent, we close, project is done, right? So conversion rate was really, really fast. And I think what I also noticed is that when what 2020 has done for me as a customer experience consultant is, even as a business owner generally, is when you create something that you think the market would like, right? You spend a lot of time and effort to do the marketing, right? To communicate the value, and then you don't get as much traction. But what has changed, and we have seen this in the numbers because recently launched Africa's first customer experience certification program, right? And it was tremendous. Like we sold out in 2 weeks. Because the market was, immediately I put up the ads, I had DMs, I had emails, I had all sorts. People would ask questions today and they're making payment tomorrow. And we had someone from even outside Nigeria, from Senegal. And it just got me thinking that, look, don't bother yourself trying to figure out what's the next thing. Just look to the market. And 2020 has shown me that just focusing on customers, right? What your customer needs, what their aspirations are, is all that you need to just get the right product out. And another key thing for me in business is you always have to do things perfectly. It has to be perfect. This has to be in place. Just get it out already and figure it out. And just figure it out as you go. So that's another key thing that, you know, it's been amazing, to be honest. When I think about it now, it just made me a lot calmer. Not to be anxious for anything, and just trust God, pray about it, and then just leave it for him and just move on to something else, right? So we can't stop talking about 2020 even if we want to. Just like, you know, key learnings from me. And of course I met you amazing ladies.
Yes.
We all met each other this year.
Yes, so much has changed. I've made friends all over the world. It's so amazing. So that's a huge, I didn't have to travel. I didn't have to get visas or travel. I mean, imagine how expensive that.
Yeah.
Bankrupt by now.
I don't know what the flight from Nigeria to Canada looks like, but I don't think it's
right. All right, that's it for me.
A long, long way. Tawana, you want me to go or you want to go?
Sure, I'll go.
Okay.
The thing, because I know you're going to wrap us up real good. You're going to wrap up this particular segment. So the thing that comes to mind for me, I'm in alignment. It's just funny. So this is that, would you call it that quad modal personality? I get Tracy's sentiment, but I also share significantly with Debbie's sentiment, right? So like for me, I've expressed previously, COVID reminded me a lot of the divorce process. People just get ghost. They stay super far away, almost like you're contagious. And then now the silence that everybody's feeling, having to deal with themselves because you have to be and sit with yourselves and sit with people that you may not necessarily want to spend time with. It's like, been doing this. Been doing this. Like, now, right? Because people don't get passionate until it gets personal. And it's like, oh,
yeah.
Now you feel it. Okay, good. Be a human. Right?
Yes.
Like it's something that we should be doing anyway. Being alone
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily mean that we are lonely. You need to be good with being with yourself, because you don't necessarily need anyone or everyone else's approval to go forth and be great and walk in whatever the goodness that you're doing or that you bring, right? So it's like connection as a person, we're built for it. So do we miss that physical, nature in some elements? And then also like the convenience of not having to get out and about. As a single mom through divorce, I have been able to do more now, like networking events, no problem. Click of a button. I just got to make sure it's on my calendar. I don't have to worry about childcare. I don't have to worry about how many miles away it is. And okay, I got to factor. Okay, I need to drive 45 minutes here to drop her off to somebody that I can trust. Okay, and then I need to drive 2 hours in that direction because that's where the event is. And then okay, I got to get like. I used to miss so much stuff, or shall I say, had to skip out on so much stuff because hey, I'm a single mom. I can't drop off at grandma. Grandma's not local, So it's like I've been able to tap more into networking, more into business events, more into just being more intentional about, establishing and fostering genuine relationships through this whole virtual experience that has been elevated beyond certain industry niches, right? Like as a project manager, remote work in and of itself, not new. Most of the vendors here in the US that we outsource with are outside of the US, right? Totally different time zones. So remote work in and of itself is not a new concept. Having to do remote work in a hybrid sense, now that is different because I am a professional woman. I don't mind going to work and I want my child to go to school. I don't want to be home mom and working at the same time. When I left my job in 2019 to do my full-time entrepreneurship, my vision wasn't because I wanted to be home more with my kids. No. No. Right? That just wasn't my story. I'm not knocking it. That wasn't my vision, right? How it has changed me though, I learned to appreciate like wow, I'm grateful I have the autonomy to say, you know what? No, she's going to do virtual school, right? Not everybody has that freedom to say that. Some people have to go physically into their workplace or whatever it is that they do. I also have learned my daughter in a way as a student that I never would have known her before because I spent all my hours, right, in the office or commuting to and from work and childcare. And in me, she's learning to see mom in a way that she never would have seen before. And like she's like, mommy, gotta take a picture of this. Mommy, give me your phone so I can take video of you while you're teaching your class online. And like, mommy, what do you make sure you say bootstrap dreams in your next live, okay? And I'm like, yes, ma'am. And it's amazing because these are things that likely would not have happened because I'm thinking I'm going to do my work while she's at school. And when she come home, then I can be a mom, right? And not have to be conflicted between two very important areas of my life. So I'm having to learn to be more flexible and having to, accept that, motherhood while I am in business is not an imposition, right? It's a gift. And that there are cool ways that we can have fun while doing the both of them. So, I know I got like a little more personal on the insights on how it has changed, but it's been super significant on how I function as a woman in business. And I'm like, if you can't deal with me being a mom while we're doing business, I'm not your person and you're not my client. That's period. Right?
I love that. I just want to quickly hit that because we had a call the other day, a prep call, and like Tara's daughter Riley was doing like a puppet show for my son Nicholas. And I was like, this is so cool. Like, and we're doing this, right? But the kids are meeting each other and we live in different countries. Like these kids would not hang out, right? Like it's just so cool to see them embracing that. And the fact that I think the industries too have embraced, like everyone's working from home, right? Like I have a 2-year-old. Every time he pulls my headset out of the ear, I just like, it is what it is. But I think people have, become more accepting of like working parents and the struggle that working parents experience.
That's an amazing point because someone said to me once that, you have to go to work. Someone actually told me during the lockdown to go hire a nanny. And I'm like, I'm not going to bring in anybody into my house now. There's no way. And he says, what if your client insists? And that's not my client, because I will not be
Mm-hmm.
inconvenienced. I was in paid employment. I was working in a bank. My working hours are crazy. And my daughter really suffered. She's 9 now, like literally suffered. So we've bonded these last 2 years, and she's got to secondary school in another 2 years, and she's definitely going to boarding school. And I've said, look, 2 years, whatever happens, I just need to manage this. After 2 years, which is off to boarding school, we can get back. So that's a very, very important point. Very important point.
It absolutely is. And I actually, when our kids get to see each other, they get to see other cultures, they get to see other people that are not like, maybe them. And I think that's important as we expose our children, so this teaches our kids so much. So after I get off the phone with you guys, then we have to pull out the globe, and then we have to go, so where do my friends live, And so she gets excited, and that's just another teaching point, And so I think it's really good for the kids as well if they can see us as their parents working and they see all the different things that we're doing, because I know that every once in a while I'll hear over there going, well, I'm on a Zoom call right now, and like she'll be mimicking what I'm saying, and so it's really actually quite cute. But I actually kind of can resonate with every single one of you. So I'm an extrovert, very much like Tracy is. My career, I've spent always out and about, networking, doing that sort of thing. But with Debbie, I can say that I didn't realize that I actually liked to be home because I never had the ability to be home. And now I really enjoy that as well, which I would never have known, prior to COVID. And then, and along with Tawana, like our daughters are both 6, her daughter's in kindergarten, mine's in first. So I completely resonate with how difficult it is to do virtual schooling along with being a woman in business. And so thankfully you're absolutely right. It's taught me so much. It's taught me grace. I'm extremely high achieving. And so my expectations were very high. And so as we're like going along in this journey of discovery, which I believe that 2020 was a journey, is a journey of discovery, is a journey of learning resilience. Companies, businesses have had to pivot to remain relevant, to remain engaging with their constituents, to continue to do business. And so I think 2020 has taught us so many things, but resilience is one of them, that we have to change. Maybe we've done something the same way for years and years and years, but I promise you guys, that's not the only way to do something. So there are ways to profit. There are ways to connect. And 2020 has taught us that. So let me let Debbie back in real quick. So I believe that 2020 has taught us that, but I also believe that 2020 has taught us the ability that networking can bring together people and brilliant minds across the world, which is what my love is. My love is to connect. And, I have grown to just in friendships with all of you, and that would have never been possible had COVID not happened. I actually thought for the longest time, when I actually discovered the online space and like how quickly it was growing and everything, I thought I must have lived under a rock for many, many, many years because I had no idea that the world even existed. And so I think that it's taught us all of these things, but it's taught us to learn to connect and build genuine and authentic relationships with people. And you don't have to be in the same country. You don't have to be in the same state. You don't have to be in the same industry. You can collaborate across borders and across, differences. It doesn't matter. So I think it's taught us that. A lot of people say it is a division. It has caused division across the world, but it's also caused us to come together in a different way. And so my hope is that as the world continues to reel and get through this situation, that we will not forget this and continue to grow the relationships, continue to grow and realize that, people don't have to necessarily sit in a desk any longer. Business is changing. It will probably likely never be the same. School will never be the same, but you know what? That's not necessarily a bad thing because things can change. They can evolve. And we're getting to see that, and our kids are getting to see that. So I think as long as we can continue to show ourselves grace and our friends, and, reach out to each other, you're right. We're not meant to live, a singular life. We're meant to live in connection with one another. And so this has taught me all of those things. And I think that we're going to see a lot of differences in businesses. One last thing too, that I've noticed, that when I say that, you know, people don't have to necessarily sit in a desk any longer, I also mean that you can find talent anywhere in the world. So if there's something specific that you're looking for, you may not have time, or maybe you don't have, you're not necessarily looking for somebody to fill a full-time position, but you need someone to do something, you know, temporary. That's the beauty of that we're seeing now. Like, I didn't know that existed, so therefore I know that I'm sure many people didn't. But also, you know, with all of this, my priorities changed, and I didn't know that I needed to change my priorities. I didn't know, like Debbie, that my daughter was suffering because I was gone 60, 80 hours a week. But that's what we're told our whole lives. We're told our whole lives, you work in corporate, you do this, you know, you work hard, you do everything you can, and you'll climb the corporate ladder. And that's not really the case. Like, it can be better than that. Like, there are so many other opportunities out there. So my other thing is that I would encourage those that maybe are in that place that you don't want to be, that there are opportunities, you know, reach out to one of us as well, because, you know, we decided to take that leap of faith, and it's been the most amazing, and I can't even fathom what the future is going to hold for all of us.
Yeah.
Read my blog. I did a blog post on the corporate ladder. This is personal brand. I'll put the link in the comments.
Yes.
And the key thing is that you can actually have the best of both worlds.
Exactly.
Just knowing what your priorities are and being content. That's what I realized. Like, definitely some things will have to give, but just be content. Enough is good enough, to be honest.
That's right.
But what's important to you? Is it up the career ladder, or is it family? Is it your dream? What exactly do you want to do? It's just about prayer. And I think that's something, to your point, that 2020 has taught a lot of us, right? You can't be normal anymore. Just like everything has changed, you have changed as well. You can't be normal anymore. But I've really learned that, I mean, entrepreneurship will teach you contentment. That I can tell you for free, right? Mm-hmm. It will teach you to, like, you can imagine what the kind of thing. I remember when I left paid employment, I called my daughter and I said, because I had to resign voluntarily. And I said to her, okay, Kayla, things have to change now. Because usually end of the month we dine out, anything she wants, she gets it. But like, things, Mommy, what happened? The mommy no longer works. The mommy has focused on her business now until something else comes. And yeah, so all that pizza, ice cream, eating out, all of that stuff, we cook at home, we eat at home. Even for the kind of products I would love to buy, I buy cheaper options, because, but bottom line is, you have milk and you have cereal, regardless of what the cereal or milk is. Whatever the product is, brand name is fine. But you have the basics, so that's okay, right? So yeah. It's
taught our, I think it's made us realize what our values are and come back to our roots and like really what we need to be doing, you know, for our families, because I think that we get caught up, you know, for so long that I likely would have continued the rat race until I was ready to retire. And I would have looked back and said it was, and I always knew there was more, but I would have looked back and been very, very unhappy with what I'd done, you know? And so I'm so thankful that the world kind of opened up to me. So COVID, you know, it's done so much, but there is a silver lining.
Yeah.
Well, and you guys, the top regret of the dying is that didn't do enough things that you wanted to do. And I think that, and yeah, there's some things we can't do, right? Like, I can't have my bake exchange in person, and it makes me sad, but I can't have that. And I'm going to have a virtual bake exchange if you guys want it. But like, there's so many more things. And I had an experience very similar to Tara. Is just like, I was doing my corporate job at the beginning of COVID from home. My son couldn't go to daycare. And so he's 2, he was in my face all the time. And every single one of those moments, I didn't want to choose working, right? I wanted to choose hanging out with him. And then when that's in your face every day, you're like, wow, how do I really feel about this job? And then there were so many other things that happened in 2020 as well that just were like, wow, what I like to call personal brand, not aligned with my corporate life. And there's only so much time that you're willing to invest when it's that big of a like pull away from your own personal brand, right? So that was for me, I was just like, I'm not going to decide that anymore. I can't decide to do that. I need to decide to take care of my personal brand. And I don't know how long that misalignment would have continued to happen if COVID didn't happen, right? So like, I'm thankful personally for that. And similar to Tawana, like I had to figure out, my background is in marketing. My whole job was to be the voice of somebody else forever. From the time I went to university, that is what I was trained to do, to be the voice of someone else. And then I got an opportunity to be my own voice. And I was like, whoa, okay, well, now what do I want to say? Because now I get to say what is authentically me, but I haven't done a lot of work to figure out what that authentic me is. And we can't go anywhere, so we might as well do that. And it's been so empowering because now every moment that I spend, whether it's working or momming or relationshiping or trying to figure out how I'm going to get on this coaching call because my husband and I have conflicting calls, right? Like all of that feels good. It feels good. It doesn't feel hard. And I know that there are so many people and people probably watching this show that are still experiencing that it feels hard. And we don't know what's going to happen going into 2021. I don't know how long it's going to stay that way or stay unpredictable. And if unpredictable feels hard, then it's just going to continue to feel really bad. But if you can get to that place where unpredictable, like Debbie said, is just unpredictable and it's just part of what is, and you can function as a human within that space, then that is so empowering and it's available to people. So it's an opportunity. There are lots of, I think we've all talked about lots of different things that we can see as opportunities. And if we can stay in the right mindset, which is the point of this show, keep you guys in the right mindset.
Yeah, that's right.
Then that's amazing. And that's what we're here to do.
Absolutely.
And you triggered something in me as you were talking and you know, piggybacking off of what Debbie said. I like that this year, and I don't say this lightly because 2020 has brought forth a lot of things that no one would ask for, you know, a lot of losses, a lot of illness.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, of course, people passing away. So I'm not trying to make light of the situation. Yet those of us who have been gifted to still be here and still sustain health or overcome COVID, even if you know, were infected with it, I like how this year has moved so many people to action. This year has put people to action in a way that, you know, people have been sitting on ideas for years saying, well, I like this idea, but I don't know if I have what it takes, or I like where I am, so I'm not really, you know, incentivized to make a move on it. Yet we all know, like, what's the underdog without a challenge, right? And so this challenge has catapulted people into situations where they never would have launched, leaped, you know, connected with other people, have, you know, holiday Zoom parties and all this other stuff had this situation not happen, because everybody's tunnel vision and kind of, you know, in their own lane and focused on doing their own thing. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, because we have to put on our oxygen masks first. Yet it has driven so many more people to a greater perspective and intentionality in their living. So I am totally here for that. I am like, yes, you have what it takes. You have everything you need already to proceed. And the more you connect, like Tara's like, get those relationships going. You will find who to outsource with. You will find who to collaborate with. You will find someone else, right, that is in your niche or that's right on the side of it that complements your, you know, your big deal thing. Like, get going. Just get going. You don't have to go anywhere to do it either. Right? Just right there in your seat. Get started, get moving. So that is the part about 2020 that I am like, gosh, you know, so many parts of it are unfortunate, yet the beautiful part of it is it got people moving. It got people moving.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. Like, I've known so many people devastated by this disease, and it just, you guys know me, it just kills me to even think about. So that empathetic side is absolutely, you know, there's always, that's what the whole mindset is like, there's all this loss and heartache, but then there's also all this overcoming. And so it's a time that we're learning so much because we're having to join those two things together. And so we have the heartache, but we also have the overcoming and like Tawana just said, you know, like just it's caused us to just dive in to things that, you know, I've even heard of so many people that I talk to are like, oh, I've decided to finally do that, you know, cleaning out my closets, or I finally decided to do this because I'm at home and I never had the time to do it, but now I'm making time to do it. So people are taking action, and it's awful. And I say that all the time. It's just awful that it's even here. But on the other side of the coin, we have to remember that there is some good that's come out of it. So it's so difficult, you know.
And we can't control it, I think, is one of the
Yeah.
important things, which we're learning in Alberta right now, that's out of control. And like, we're getting close to borders being closed again, right? Like, it's just, it's bad. And so, but we can't control it. Like, I can do what I can do. And there's so much darkness that we can succumb to. And we can also be the light, right? Like, we can be a light for our families and our friends and our international connections. And that's an amazing opportunity. So when we can't, there's so much that you can't control. What if you could do just everything you can do? And like Tawana said, people are being put to the test. Like, well, what can I do? Like, how much of this can I do? And I know personally for me, like, I'm one of those people who's just always like, I make it work, right? Like, there's pretty much nothing that doesn't happen if I set my mind to it. And there's so many things, creative ways, new creativity that is coming out how people think, because you have to think differently. And that is so amazing. As long as we continue to think differently and be a human.
Yes.
There's a quote for that, and it goes, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So it's not a matter of circumstance, right? We're going to acknowledge it. This, you know what? This is happening. I don't like the way it feels. This sucks, but the feeling is not a fact. The feeling is a vibration that we've subscribed a word or prescribed a word to, right? So I don't like the situation around me. I can't necessarily change the situation that's happening, but I can change how I'm going to function and how I'm going to add more life to my living while I'm going through it. Because I'm choosing to believe that this thing that's happening around me is not going to be the end of me, particularly if you are not diagnosed with anything that says you are dying. Right? Like, we have that power. We have that power to shift our minds and to take a greater management. Some people like say, take control of your life. Well, I'm not sure what you believe, but you know, if you don't wake up tomorrow, we'll know how much control you had. Right?
I always say, like, I don't know, I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. Although now I'm not going outside, so I'm not going to get hit by a bus.
You know, but we can have a better management of our time. We can have a better management of our intent. We can have a better manage of our mood and of our experiences. I literally have in dry erase on my bathroom mirror, our days are as fun as we make them. So long as I was like, oh, being home with kindergarten and doing virtual school is hard, it was hard. Once I said, you know what? This is not going to change anytime soon. And I made the decision for her to stay home. So I'm going to have to sit with that decision. Now figure out how to not just deal with it, figure out how to love it, learn how to love it. What can I do as a mom to shift the atmosphere? Because we know as women, married or not, you make the atmosphere in your home. And so I was like, how can I create an atmosphere in here that we like and feels good to us? And aside from putting processes and systems in place, like literally, we manage virtual school through Trello and alarms on our mobile devices. So we don't fuss and argue about, oh, it's time to do this, stop doing that. We don't have those conversations. After 1 week of doing it and being consistent, she manages herself. All I have to do is put the password back into the iPad so she can actually tap Trello, go to her hyperlink and log into Zoom. Listen, I mean, like that took a load off of the challenge, because that power and nurture bucket, we weren't having those struggles and navigating what's required of us. Like, that's not an option. You have to do school. So How can we do it and make it easier for the both of us? And then when you're not discontented with one another because we have to figure out how to do what's required, guess what happens in between that? More laughter, more fun.
Yeah.
So just like Tracy said, finding creative ways to function. There's always more than one way you can get to the goal. The goal doesn't change. How you get there, though, sometimes.
Yeah, 100%. Another thing I like about what you're saying is, and which I've noticed as well, is when you change your mindset, you begin to attract what your mind is thinking. Once you have that change in mindset, you begin, and this is something again that was very strong for me, and I resonate with that 100%. It was very strong for me this year when I chose to stop, reading the news, stop worrying about, COVID and all of, just take it one day at a time and just pray and just, do what it is that my instincts tell me to do, and just being positive. It was hard, but then it's the grace, right? It's not by human effort, and you start to attract what your mind conceives. So it's a very, very valid point that you've raised. Yeah, I'm loving it.
Yes, this is so good. But I think too, I just keep praying like every day, let me be a vessel, let me be a light to those that are around me, because there are so many that are struggling, and I realize that, but I have the ability to be that light, to help. And whether that's through a word of encouragement, just reaching out, and then too, just and learning that like that's, and it is part of our mindset, like learning that we have the ability to do that, but to actually follow through and do it,
Yeah, because so much has happened to so many people. We've lost loved ones, people we know, people we don't know. People have lost their jobs. It's been so tough, so tough. So just being alive, it's a miracle. And then even in Nigeria again, we had this whole huge protest in EndSARS, end police brutality. And we had a couple of people who died in the process of the protest. It was so bad. The country was shut down just right after lockdown. And now we've gone into recession. So there's so much going on. So as much light that we can bring, we are dealing with our own stuff as well. See, that's the thing. You're not fine, but you also have to lift somebody up. Life happens.
Right.
Life is interesting. So
yeah, because we all have struggles that we're going through, whether it's momming and having our kids and doing virtual school and trying to run our businesses and trying to do our phone calls, and they're pulling our AirPods, like all of these things are happening, but you know what, we're just resilient. We figure it out. Like there's no other option though. And that's the thing that I think that is special about entrepreneurs and special about people that go for the gold, really, is that like you don't let any of that stop you from what you're looking to accomplish. It's hard, but you know what, it could be harder.
Yeah. And then, with us having a service focus, right? All of us being service-based professionals, there's an innate thing within us that we thrive when we serve others anyway. Like whenever we, don't just focus solely on our own needs, but we pour out into others, whatever, like, Tara said, being that light, David said, being that light may be, whatever that looks like for you, that's where the fulfillment comes in, because you're not just sulking and sucking and thinking about you, right? Like, it's not just about you as a person. It's not just about me as an individual. It's like, what can I do to help someone else and serve while I'm yet suffering, right?
Yeah.
When I get compassionate about my experiences and I share that with someone else and it uplifts them and they can see now the possibilities through it, then that gives me purpose. That lets me know, like, okay, that wasn't for nothing. This life is worth living. Like, this test is to be a testimony to help someone else, not just a woe is me song. Like, that doesn't have to be reality. So I think when we do take, the time to say, I'm just going to show up today anyway, and I'm going to put a smile on my face and transfer good energy, right? Hear someone else out, see how I can help, integrate them with someone or something to meet their need. You end up getting at the end of your day being like, today was good. Like, like, hey, like, things are tough out there right now, but I enjoyed great today. Like today was everything. So I think, you know, that intentionality, the mindset shifts, all that stuff that we talked about today, like just really significant and really helps us to thrive and not just survive, you know, any experience.
Yeah.
Deep stuff.
So do it, guys. Listeners.
You know,
I just had the best time. That was amazing.
yeah. Yeah.
It's just fun to listen to you guys talk and like just take it all in. I just loved it.
Yeah. So go for it, right? To summarize it, because y'all know I took notes for us. Y'all know I did. So
Of course you
Right?
did.
get back to the basics, right? Tap into your knowledge, connect with others, relate with people, ignite relationships, networking. Your network is your net
Worth.
right? Talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
Conversion. Debbie talked about how much more convenient it is to connect and access people, how much faster you can deliver online and close for your businesses, make your money.
Yeah, that's really smart. I hadn't thought about that.
Quicker wins, faster action.
Yeah.
Bam, right? Flexibility, having compassion and grace, realizing that there's more than one way. We talked about exposure to cultures, geography, different demographics, things you might not have seen because you're stuck in your little quarantine, right? We talked about shift on priorities, having a greater perspective and a focus on family. A lot of things that us working individuals, you know, did not necessarily have balancing in the way that was, you know, equitable to our beliefs. I'll, you know, say that. And then we talked about, as we wrapped up, access to information, to more joy and contentment, and to action. Like before, if you're like, oh, I don't know how to get to it, hop on a Zoom meeting, make it happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Go to meeting, webinar, Facebook, chat room.
Google it. Or just Google it.
Google it, YouTube University. Like, listen, you have time, be intentional, right? Take your time, do your thing. And then lastly, we talked about mind shifts. We talked about attracting what we think. We talked about being more resilient and serving others through our suffering. That is how we become more human, right? In business. That is how we live our lives and make it super significant. What else you got to say for that, ladies?
I mean, like that was, I think, wonderful.
Excellent.
And thank you for taking all those notes.
You're welcome.
And just be a human.
And be a human. It's very simple. It doesn't have to be hard.
No, and it doesn't have to be perfect.
That's right.
Good point.
Very good point.
Very good point.
Messy action is better than no action.
And
Oh, yes.
by any moral means necessary. We're gonna add that caveat.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are levels to being messy. Stay on the moral side.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. With that, thanks, guys. Thanks for watching our teaser episode. And stay tuned for more information on the schedule for 2021.
Woohoo!
Yay!